The Writers' Corner live show introduces you to interesting authors from around the globe. Some of them are well-known best-selling authors, and others are interesting and inspiring best-selling authors for the future. And our featured author this week is Marie Bennett with her book Dragonflies at Night. Sit tight and we will be right back. If you're just joining us, this is the Writers' Corner live show, helping authors level up their storytelling impact and authority through the power of live video. The stream is made possible by StreamYard and Creative Edge and Be Live Media. And I'm your host, Bridgetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. So welcome to the show. If you want to know when we go live on Facebook, please go ahead and like our Facebook page so that you can get the notification. And on YouTube, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Today's show, we talk to Marie Bennett about her book called Dragonflies in the Night. But first, let me introduce my amazing co-host and friend, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's a special needs and disabilities advocate and also the award-winning author of the Poolicious Children Books series. Mary, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning for me and good evening for you, right?
Absolutely. And so welcome to everyone, wherever you are in the world. Do join us and let us know, join us in the chat, should I say. Welcome to the show if you're on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Periscope, wherever you're watching us, do say hello in the chat. Let us know where you are joining from. We'd love to know where you are in your little corner of the world. So as Mary just said, it's morning for her and evening for me. And very delighted to be introducing you to our author of the week, Marie Bennett. She's been writing stories and novels since she was 12 years old. It's amazing. I always love meeting people who grew up with a love for books. And it's great to find what their journey was to where they,
I know it's really cool to find out and just see kind of that progression and what drove them and how they, they never got bored. Because, sometimes we have things that we love and that we're even good at. Sometimes people just, about it and we just move on to something else, Oh,
absolutely. And it's great when we meet people that grew up with a love for books and it remained with them. Sometimes people start, reading and so on, but then things change for them. And with Marie, she says that she was assigned to write a short story when she was 12 years old, and it turned out to be a 40-page novel about a little girl who discovered an underground cat colony. And so she published a young adult novel plus several books about her cancer journeys and also the practice of SoulCollage. We'll have to ask what that's about.
Absolutely.
And then Dragonflies at Night is her first women's fiction novel.
I love it, actually. And I actually have a copy here. So I love it. And you're supposed to get one too. So
waiting for that anxiously. It's amazing. It's lovely to actually. Ebooks are great. Everybody loves a good ebook, right? But there is just something special, I think, about feeling that paper in your hand. It's just different, right?
Yes, my daughter's that way. She writes music, but she wants to feel that. Both my girls like to feel it in their hands. So there are those of us who love that feel. And that's all a sensory thing too, as we know. And then some of us are just like, I have friends who want them on audio so they can like listen while they're driving and going to pick up kids or running errands or whatever, or also doing, housework or whatever they're doing, that's easier for them to get books in.
And so welcome to Sebastian, who's joined us on Facebook. Um, great that
Hi.
you are, yeah, great that you are able to join us. And so shall we welcome Anna Marie onto the show for today, shall we?
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
I like the click for subscribe. Let's use some of that on people, right? Hypnotizing. I love it.
Anne Marie, welcome to the show. It is amazing to have you join us today, and we can't wait to dive into your backstory about how you got into writing. So, who was it that nurtured your love for words? I mean, 12 is still pretty young for someone to start writing their novel. How did you get started?
Yes, well, thank you for the introduction. I really, really appreciate that, and nice to be here. I think my mom and my dad and my older brothers were always reading, and they were always reading to me when I was too little to read by myself. And my mom passed away at 81, but she used to tell the story. I don't remember it exactly, but she used to tell the story that when I was 5 years old, she was reading The Wizard of Oz to me, a chapter every night. And then one time she was too busy to read it, and she said I picked up the book and finished it myself. And this was in kindergarten. I don't know. It was probably a children's version of Wizard of Oz. But I grew up in a house where books were everywhere, and I've never stopped. I've just never stopped reading.
And I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that my love of books has come from that, and my wanting to write stories the way I've read stories and take people into magical places. And that was Mr. Valentine in 6th grade. I'll never forget that whole experience. It really sparked something in me. Like he was so impressed that I'd written a 40-page novel complete with illustrations. My dad was a really good artist, and he drew the pictures, and a friend of mine made the cover, and everybody else turned in these 1 and 2 page short stories like we were told. But I was impressed that he thought enough of it to send it to a publisher. I guess I had never thought that somebody might want to publish a book that I had written.
That is amazing. So no, there's no overachieving at all, is there?
No, great.
I love it. And it's very true, because I know you've heard this, and I know Brigetti has, and a lot of people have heard that if you start with your children really, really young, even when they can't read, and you read to them, they're more apt to become readers because you've read to them, and then you've kind of impressed that love for it upon them, And I know I started mine out very, very young. I mean, before my little guy could even see, with the big, books that have big, bright colors and big words kind of calmed him down. So, well, we're so happy your family did that for you.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. And so what inspired you? I know Brigetti and I both want to ask you about SoulCollage and your survival, because there are people out there who are watching and watch the replay and everything who might be survivors as well. So your testimony of going forward and surviving might be helpful to them as well. But I do want to know, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, it does kind of tie into the cancer survivor story, because I had breast cancer in 2002, treated successfully and so on. And then in 2011 and 12, I had a recurrence of a different kind of cancer in the same area of my body. And after all of that was over, I was kind of, I took time back for myself, like, and I kind of was in the back of my mind. I didn't really make a bucket list, but I kind of in my head was like, what are some things I've wanted to do that I've been putting off? And one of them was not necessarily writing a novel and publishing it, but writing fiction again. That was, a friend of mine sent me a poem after that second cancer journey in 2012, and it was about, think of a time when you were young and you were doing what made you, what you loved more than anything in the world, and think of a time when you were doing, what were you doing when they would come and interrupt you for something more important? Like, it was a beautiful poem, and it really made me stop and think, like, what was I doing? I was writing stories. I was just making up stuff. That's what I call it. So about a year after that second cancer journey, I started a writing practice where I would go into my writing space and shut the door and just sit at my laptop for a half an hour or an hour at a time, and what I call make up stuff. I would just sit down and just tell a story. I would just start with a sentence and see where it went. And then in 2014, part of that writing practice where I was just sitting there making up stuff, the characters of Ben and Savannah were on the page, and they started telling their story. And unlike the other times where I would sit and make stuff up, they just kept on going. So if I would sit down 3 times a week, then 4 or 5, 6 weeks later, I realized I'm still writing their story. Oh. So I kept going with it. And then it started out as a simple romance, like between a celebrity, Ben, and an ordinary girl, woman, a Savannah. And then after a while, as I was hearing Savannah's story, her mother died when she was 15, and she still feels connected to her mother through Dragonflies. And then after that, then the mother, Deirdre Rose, started having a voice when I would sit down and write. So then I realized it was something more than just a romance. And that's how it came to be. And I just kept going. And because I have a full-time business, I wasn't writing. It took 6 years, but I wasn't writing it every day for 8 hours. So,
but that gives people hope, because
yes.
Bridgetti and I have had on, he took him, was it 20 years, Bridgetti, to write his book?
I think it was more than 20
was
years,
it 30
Mary.
years?
It was about 30 years, correct.
Yeah. And so I think people have these ideas that, they have to have the right writing space, and they have to be in the right mood, and they have to have everyone shh. And listen, those things really work. Believe me, I'm a full-time mom, and listen, I have to find those. I have to make those spaces up for myself. Right. You know what I mean? Like you said, shut the door, 30 minutes. I like this morning, I had 10 minutes before I started homeschooling, and everything was quiet. So, I went to the computer, just started writing, so I could get that in. So, your story, along with others that we have interviewed, is also, helpful to people who think it has to be done this way. There are no rules in writing except for grammar, and Dr. Seuss broke those, so we can all break them, right? So I mean, this gives us all hope. This gives others hope that it may take you 6 years, it may take you 5 years, but don't give up and keep going. And if people didn't know you were a writer, hearing those voices in your head, somebody might, think there was something going on, right? But it's fascinating how the characters, depending on what you're writing, do take a life of their own. And it's just, I find all of that very fascinating and beautiful at the same time. And then look at what happens. The fruition finally comes, and it's like birthing a baby. It just took 6 years.
Right. And it's not like you have to think you're going to write a novel that someday other people are going to read. You just sit down and write for the fun of it. At one point in the whole process of writing Dragonflies at Night, I got kind of stuck. Like I was past the point where she came back from Los Angeles and they had their wonderful week together. And I didn't know what to do next. I was just really flummoxed but I knew something was important. And so I just set it aside, and I probably set it aside for several months. And I was taking a class with a wonderful writer named Jennifer Loudon. And she was all about doing scary stuff and how you get big things done. And one of the things that she was teaching us was to make tiny, tiny steps. Make a long list of what you could do in little, like 10-minute, what would take you 10 minutes to do that you could move forward. And also another thing, the thing that probably helped me the most was there was an online Facebook group, private, for the class. And at one point I was sharing with the group that I didn't know what I was doing writing this book. Why I had so many more important things to do, but I was really drawn to it, but I didn't know why. And someone, or why I should even bother keep going to finish it. And someone wrote to me something along the lines of, what if writing fiction, what if writing fiction was, what if the only thing you ever got from it was pleasure? It sounds to me like you're getting pleasure from this. So why can't that be a good enough reason for you to sit down and keep writing it? And that really, really made a huge difference for me. I was like kind of woken up again to, yeah, that's right. That's why I'm doing this, because I love it. So let me think of all these little steps I can take that didn't even have anything to do with making up their story, but was more along the lines of reading what I'd already written and doing some research about dragonflies, doing some research about the BRCA gene, which Savannah is afraid she has because her mother died from it, and doing research about celebrity issues and why people are so attached to celebrities and so forth. So I did all that, and then it kind of kept me going.
Awesome.
So staying in touch with why you want to be writing, I think, is really, really important.
Oh, absolutely. And Dragonflies in the Night, how did you come up with that name? Why did you choose that name in particular? What was it about it?
Well, it didn't come till much later in the process. At first, it was just Ben and Savannah, a love story. And then as I was getting into it and realizing her mother had a voice, the last words her mother says to her are, "Savannah, you're going to have a splendid life." And Savannah always remembered that, and that there's another point in the story where that comes back to her. And so I was going to call it Her Splendid Life, which now that I think of it is kind of really But I
love the title. I love the title. It's really beautiful title.
Thank you. As the story evolved and dragonflies played a metaphorical kind of part of the fact that we are still connected to people who've gone before us, and also the fact that when Savannah's mother is dying, she sees dragonflies at the window and it's nighttime. And I did some research on that because I was like, that's really weird. Dragonflies, I've never seen one at night. And it seems that they don't really show themselves at night a lot unless they're heading towards light, like a a street light or a porch light or something. So there's that metaphor in there about light and what's our gift to shine, and staying connected with people who have gone before us. That they're
being drawn to light,
yes, that their love and their light is still shining with us.
So the colors in the are very vivid and interesting and exciting. How did you decide on the color scheme? Because that's another aspect of writing your book, because your cover markets your book, right?
I agree. Yes, definitely.
It's a decision maker for if somebody will pick it up or not.
Oh, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
All the marketing people say that. Yes. So I was fortunate to find an artist online who, all I did was I told her the premise of the book, and you can't see it on the screen here, but all I did was tell her the premise of the book. I didn't tell her that that purple and teal were my favorite colors.
Oh, wow.
I really didn't, but I had seen online some of her other covers, and I liked her watercolor kind of style. And yeah, she didn't turn it to me exactly like this. Like the font was different. The dragonflies were too big. I don't know. There were a couple other things I had her change. But yeah, she got the man and the woman and the light and the shadow of the mother with the child.
Wow. I mean, emotional for you.
Yeah. I was trusting my gut, like about the cover. I was trusting my gut, and I was just like looking around, seeing who I could find to give me some options. I wanted some options to pick from. Yeah. So
But
thank you
isn't
for
that just shows the importance of connecting with the right people, you know, that's involved in your book, because you can't undo it. You can't go back and change the cover later, or you know, or change the font on the cover. So all those are little important aspects that people may not pay as much attention to. But as Mary said earlier, that is what is going to make people sort of do a double take or not, you know, when they look at that cover.
Yeah, that's what's pleasing aesthetically to the eye, what draws you in, those colors, those mixture. It's like artwork. You know, sometimes we look at artwork and it doesn't do a whole lot for us unless you're, you know, you are one who's an art critique, and you may look a lot deeper than us who just kind of look at the surface. But definitely it's all that aesthetic stuff and pleasing, and even texture. You know, sometimes people have raised font on their books, and that always feels good to the hands. And there's a lot that goes into all this stuff that a lot, you know, we don't sometimes even think about.
I was thinking about that this morning because I was watching a show, and I thought, you know, that's one aspect of writing that we haven't really touched that much on the show, but it's also an important aspect. You know, you touched on it now, saying the look and the feel of the book, how the cover feels, how the pages feel when you turn the pages. And so somebody sort of nutshelled that this morning in the show that I was watching, and they were saying that effectively when you decide on an end product, you want to consider what emotion it's going to stir in the person that receives the product. And in this case, the product is the book. So when people look at the heading, when they look at the picture, the colors, what is the emotion you want people to feel when they first see the book?
And that's what artists do. Photographers, you know, when you take a photo, that's a hobby of mine. So I know when you're looking at somebody or a nature scene, what emotion is that going to evoke? What does it invoke in you taking it? What's it going to invoke in somebody when they look at the picture? You know, because that's very important as well. And something I like about your book now, you have, instead of just chapters, you've got where Savannah, sorry, has got like her name, you know, so you have like where her part is. And I don't know if anybody can see this in the camera or not, but anyways, I thought that was kind of cool. I like things that are a little bit different like that. You know, like one of my favorite books is Eat, Pray, Love, and how she sectioned everything off. And I think that was one of her big sellers for that book, because nobody had really done that before. And because this is a market that's so saturated, like music is, you know, lots of artistic things are very saturated. So we really have to kind of find those little teeny things that are going to turn somebody on and draw them in. I mean, look what Dr. Seuss did. He totally wrote words that make no sense at all, right? He's one of my favorite writers of all time because of the silliness of children. You can say words like that to a kid, and they can roll around for 5 minutes laughing, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And you're going, what are you laughing at? And they can't stop laughing. You know, it's just the sound of it. So it's really interesting. You know, we learn from 9 different ways we take in information. And so if you can put all that in a package, bam, you know. So I think Virgetti and we don't want to run out of time here before we ask you about what you teach. Because I'm not aware of it, but I'd love to know it. We both would like to know more about it.
Oh, sure. It's called SoulCollage. It's all one word, and it's an intuitive process for personal growth that was created by a wonderful woman named Sina Frost. And if you go on Amazon, I have 3 books about it, but Sina Frost wrote the Bible of it, and it's called SoulCollage Evolving. And her name is Seena Frost. And what you do is you intuitively gather images that you love from magazines or wherever, and you cut and paste them onto 5x8 cards. They can be, you know, mat board or recipe card, index cards or whatever. And then there are journaling exercises that you do with them. You can use them in groups with, you know, partners and small groups where I think what sets SoulCollage apart from some other art therapy kinds of practices is that we speak from the card. I don't have one with me, so I know you're going to ask about that. But But yeah, so you speak from the image as if you were in the image. So it's really imaginative and intuitive, and you really get in touch with parts of yourself and with archetypes that may have influenced you over your lifetime. And you make cards for people and pets in your life, and you make cards for animal companions. And once you've created a bunch of cards, you can do readings with them, kind of like you do tarot readings, but we only do the readings for ourselves. We don't do them for other people, but we might ask a question about our life and then draw 3 or 4 cards and let them help us answer the question for ourselves. And it's really, really powerful because I picked the images myself, and they all have meaning for me.
Interesting.
So,
That's really interesting. Okay, well, you know, if people are interested in this with you, then I know before we go, we'll ask you where everybody can find you, you know, and that's absolutely fascinating. It's sort of like your vision board, but a little bit more fine-tuned, isn't it?
Yes, and we don't generally use words. We use just the images, because the words are kind of left brain, and sometimes they get in the way of what the images might want to tell us. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's simple. Anybody can do it. Little kids do it. Teenagers do it. Grown-ups do it. Elderly people do it. It works in all different populations. Yes.
Well, that's a good tool for children who are nonverbal.
Yes, definitely.
A great tool for kids who, I love that. That's awesome. Or anybody, children, adults, it doesn't matter, you know.
Right. It helps you get in touch with different parts of yourself, different those inner voices. Like my inner writer card was really helpful to have out when I was doing all this work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So are you writing full time now?
No, my business, Kaleidosoul, which is focused on SoulCollage. I used to do workshops in person and weekend retreats with women, but obviously we're not doing that now in the pandemic. So I'm teaching a lot of it online. There's like over 4,000 facilitators all over the world. So wherever you are, there's probably a facilitator near you. You just go to SoulCollage.com, and I think there's a facilitator finder there, or you can just email me and I'll put you in touch with someone.
So how did you make this pivot from being in-person events to moving it online? Because, you know, everyone's needing to do that. And some people who already were in touch with technology found the pivot quite easily. How was that experience for you moving from offline or in-person events to doing them online?
Well, my online business, Kaleidosoul, I do a lot of teaching online there already, even before the pandemic. So it was really easy. It was really easy for me. I'm just doing a lot more of it. And the Dragonflies at Night launched, or Dragonflies don't launch, they land. So my launch or landing celebrations last week were done on Zoom, because we couldn't have a party in the house and we couldn't go to Barnes & Noble and have a bookstore signing. So I found it fun and easy to translate that. And actually I'm an introvert, so it was kind of a fun way for an introvert to give a party.
Oh, right.
On Zoom, yeah.
Right. So you and our friend Thornton Klein both had a launch last weekend on Saturday, and I wasn't able to participate in either because of my daughter's birthday party. So I've gone back and watched them. But how do you feel like it did?
I think they were so much more fun than I thought, and they were very moving to see. You know, there were people that I hadn't seen in years, and there were people from my Kaleidosoul community, and there were people from my author community, my super fans, and just some people I didn't know at all. I think there were like 55 people at the one on Tuesday, and then maybe half as many on Saturday. Yeah.
You know what I really like about the online events is that we get to invite people into our spaces that we would never be able to otherwise. You know, in other words, you're opening up your business to a whole new audience, because I mean, you couldn't possibly, if you launch in a bookstore, it's only people that live locally, you know, let alone people in other countries or people in other parts of the world, could never be part of that event. So you're literally opening yourself to the whole world. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
Absolutely. I know, just like, look at us. I'm in Tennessee, you're in South Africa, and you're in Massachusetts. I mean, you know, that costs a lot of money for us to meet in person. So this is fantastic and free. Oh my gosh,
Right.
you know, and we're probably on our jammies from the bottoms down, right?
Yeah.
I got fuzzy socks on because my feet are cold, you know.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. Small world, gotta love online for all those reasons. And Marie, how can people get in touch with you and where can they buy your book?
My book's available on Amazon. It's in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. And my website is annemariebennett.com, or if you forget how to spell all of that, you can go to dragonfliesatnight.com. And I have a newsletter there you can sign up for, so you can get some more interesting info about how the book came to be, and also what I'm going to be working on next. And I'm on Facebook, Anne Marie Bennett -author, and Instagram, it's Anne Marie Bennett 520.
Oh, wonderful. I know we didn't ask you that question. Are traditional published or self-published? Because we always try to get that question answered.
Yes, indeed, self-published.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, there's a lot of indie published authors out there, and there's so many different ways to do this these days. It's amazing.
Right.
So
that's right.
Thank you so much for having, for coming, for us being able to have you on, for you coming to join us. And, please remember to go to Writers Corner Live TV show group and join. Everybody out there who watching, you can join, because our authors will post books they have coming out, releases, when you guys have things on sale. We want you to constantly post there so that, because we want the readers to be able to find you. And it's a great way to find you there.
Great. Yes, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We can't wait to have you back, and have a beautiful day.
You as well. And you too, Brigitte. It was nice meeting you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Remember to write good stuff, to be inspired, one conversation at a time. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, then do reach out to us in the comments. And so from us in South Africa and in the US, it's goodbye for now. Take care until next week. Bye-bye.